So, you're thinking about buying or selling a home in Louisville, Kentucky. In this video, we're going to discuss all the real pros and cons of living in the River City.
We're going to tell you everything you need to know to feel confident about your decision.
If you want to know everything about living in Louisville, Kentucky, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for notifications to stay up to date on all things in Louisville, Kentucky. Hey everyone, my name is Zach Fry.
And I'm Beth Geiser. Every day we get calls from people just like you. Whether you're moving in 9 months or 9 days, feel free to reach out. All of our contact information is in the description box below. We'd love to help you make your move.
All right, everyone, now let's get to it. We're gonna go over some highlights here, but if there's something that you think we forgot, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. I'm gonna start with what is also Louisville's second name, which is City of Parks. Louisville, if you may not know, is actually home to over 130 parks. Isn't that amazing? And we actually have over a dozen Olmsted parks and half a dozen Olmsted parkways. You may not know, but Frederick Law Olmsted is actually the landscape architect that designed Central Park in New York City. So Cherokee Park is the one that's actually closest to where I live. So it's the one that I use the most and as one of Louisville's most beloved historic parks. I know you have a rich history with that park as well.
I sure do. I grew up right down the street from it.
Oh, it's just wonderful.
Yep.
So Cherokee Park actually features over 400 acres and just gobs of walking trails, my favorite mountain biking trails. It's a wonderful place to have a picnic with friends, family, to have grill outs, barbecues. It's just got lots of room for recreation, over 100 different tree species and over 200 bird varieties. What are some of your favorite things?
Well, I think I really love the walking loop that goes around the park. There is a walking loop that's a little over 2 miles. And what I love about it is that the city really invested in the safety of pedestrians and wanting to increase the usability of it. So what they did is several years ago, they made it one way, dedicating 1 lane for pedestrian traffic and 1 lane for car traffic. And this means that you can really safely walk with your family or your pet and not feel like you're going to get run over by any cars coming through the park.
There's also a wonderful golf course there in Cherokee Park. There's some playgrounds if you've got children. So just wonderful recreation and relaxation opportunities in Cherokee Park. Another one of my favorite features of Cherokee Park is Frisbee Field, where as the name suggests, you'll see a lot of people playing Frisbee, also playing catch with their dog, hanging out on blankets and having picnics on beautiful days. Wonderful place to relax. And there's a trail that actually connects Frisbee Field to another favorite feature, which is
Behringer Hill, otherwise known as Dog Hill.
Yep. And as the name suggests, a lot of people hang out with their dogs there. So it's pretty social. You'll actually see some people there doing fitness boot camps. And it's one of my favorite places to watch the sunrise on an early morning loop after going to the gym. Yeah.
The hill is pretty long and steep. So as Zach says, people take their dogs there. They like to throw the ball down the hill and have their dog run back up. It's a great way to exercise your pet. And then in the wintertime, it's one of the sledding favorites.
Oh yeah.
It's nice and long and steep. And so it'll be covered up with kids out on a snow day, enjoying it and sledding, and adults too.
Cherokee Park also connects to another one of our favorite parks, Seneca Park. And they actually have an 18-hole golf course there as opposed to the 9-hole course over at Cherokee. They got tennis courts. What else? They got some...
They have a walking track there.
Yep.
It's not uncommon, especially in the afternoons after work, to see lots of people out enjoying that walking track. You know, friends will get together and take a walk after work and get some exercise. It's a 1 mile loop around that track.
Very social. Very social. Great, wonderful park.
All right, next on our list is Iroquois Park. This is situated in the south part of Louisville, and it's one of the older Olmsted parks as well. Now, this park has a little over 700 acres, and one of the highlights of Iroquois Park is the lookout. You can drive to the top and have a beautiful panoramic views of the city and southern Indiana. Also, if you're really ambitious, there's a staircase that you can climb, and a lot of people do that for exercise. We've done that before, and let me tell you, it's not easy, but it's a great workout, and the reward is worth the effort. So you get to the top, and you just have these sweeping vistas of the city, and it's really fantastic. There's also a trail system in Iroquois Park. They also have a golf course there. Now, it's lined by really large, mature trees, and some golfers don't really want to have trees on their course, but it really adds to the beauty of it. It's one of the most scenic golf courses in the city.
You know, I think it's worth noting too that Iroquois has also recently added one of our favorites.
Oh yeah,
pickleball courts. So there's some great pickleball courts there, at Iroquois Park if you like to play. Also, contact us below. We like to play pickleball.
That's right. And then we would be remiss if we did not mention that Iroquois has an amphitheater. And they attract a lot of talented acts there every year.
Great shows.
Yep. And it's a wonderful venue, partially covered, partially uncovered. I don't think I've ever had a bad seat though.
So you don't feel like you're just lost in the crowd there.
No.
It's a real intimate setting.
Yes.
But it's big enough to bring really popular national artists.
Yeah.
So it is just a gem of the city. Next up, we're going to talk about Jefferson Memorial Forest, which is just mind-boggling. It's actually the largest urban forest in the United States. Has over 6,000 acres, and it gets over 250,000 visitors every year, and it's just got gobs of trails. And there's some real doozies in there, so you want to make sure you check the trail difficulty before you get in too deep. But there's some wonderful educational programs there with regard to wildlife and fauna. And it's just a real treasure.
They also allow camping in Jefferson Memorial Forest, so it's a great opportunity if maybe you've wanted to try camping, you haven't done that yet. Maybe you want to take your family out and see if camping is for you. Next up is one that we both enjoy and use regularly, which is Louisville Waterfront Park. So this is really an important asset to the city, and they made an investment in this space several years ago. They've continued to improve it throughout the years. It's host to Thunder Over Louisville, which is the largest fireworks display in the United States. This occurs the week leading up to Derby, so in late April or mid to late April, before the Kentucky Derby, which is the first Saturday in May. Louisville Waterfront Park also has a walking bridge. The Big Four Bridge was renovated several years ago, and this now links Louisville to southern Indiana via this walking bridge, pedestrian bridge.
You're going to find some wonderful street musicians up there, painters. You'll see people doing their wedding photographs or engagement photography, rather.
Yeah.
Really special family. It's a place where family and friends congregate to have some recreational time together.
Yeah. Another wonderful bonus of the Big Four pedestrian bridge is that it's helped to be a cultural uniter. Historically, southern Indiana and Louisville have had a bit of a cultural divide, with citizens on both sides not ever really wanting to cross the bridge and enjoy, the amenities on the other side of the river. And now the Big Four Bridge, because there are so many great restaurants and shops and interesting events happening at the base of both sides, we're seeing that more often people are really enjoying both sides of the river. And this is exactly what we need, for both sides of the river, both cities to really flourish.
Yeah, it really does connect both communities socially and culturally. It is just a great place to take an evening walk to watch the sunset.
Yeah, it is.
You'll see boats going down below, and a lot of people will post up on the Big Four Bridge for another one of our favorite events, which is Waterfront Wednesday, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah, and there's always a nice breeze coming off the river. So if you're hanging out down there in the summertime, it could be kind of oppressively hot in the middle of the summer, but it's always pleasant right on the waterfront.
It's also a great place to hear the Belle of Louisville play its calliope.
That's right.
Which is the steam organ. And if you don't know, the Belle of Louisville is our beloved steamboat. Yeah. So they do evening and dinner tours there. And if you haven't been on the Belle of Louisville, highly recommend that. All right, y'all, another one of our favorite parks that we want to feature is the Parklands Park System. And it is just awesome because all of these parks pretty much have hike and biking trails, but the Parklands also has canoe and kayak trails. And it's got over 4,000 acres. Parklands is actually one of the largest urban parks to open in the 21st century.
Well, and like any city, often what you see is disappearing green space, not dedicated green space. So it's absolutely a gem that we have all of these acres that are dedicated for recreational use for the people that live here. And the goal is to continue to expand them so that they're all connected.
Yep. That's right. There's actually over 60 miles of paths and trails that connect, so you can really get just a fantastic workout and really enjoy some just beautiful natural settings out there. So if you haven't yet been to the Parklands, totally recommend it.
And the other thing about it that I appreciate is that these parks are located in parts of the city where there really wasn't a park before.
Yep.
So it's made more accessibility for people regardless of where they live in the city.
My favorite way to enter the park is through Turkey Run, and it just sweeps through this beautiful valley. And to me, it almost just has this feeling of like being out west or like Little House on the Prairie or something. It's just gorgeous.
All right, another feature that we love about Louisville is affordability. The cost of living index for Louisville is 88.4. This means that it's 11.6% more affordable than other cities of a similar size in the United States. The cost of living in Louisville is significantly lower than, say, Cincinnati, Nashville, other cities that are proximal and of a similar size.
Yeah, less than Columbus, Ohio, even.
Right.
Yeah.
This makes Louisville ideal for young professionals, families, and even retirees. There are people who live in other parts of the country. They're looking for a city with similar amenities, but they've set the retirement budget and they want to downsize, and it makes Louisville ideal for that.
You get a lot of bang for your buck here.
Absolutely.
So when people visit here, whether it's for Kentucky Derby or Bourbon and Beyond, and they're looking at housing prices, they're really shocked just to see how affordable it is. You can really afford a nice house in a decent neighborhood without breaking the bank.
That's right.
By comparison to other metropolitan areas.
In fact, homes here are about 37% lower in price on average than the rest of the nation.
Home ownership in Louisville is about 64%, which indicates a really strong market for buyers.
Yeah.
So that's a great indicator that we are very affordable. Another great perk about Louisville's affordability is utilities. They're about 3% less than the national average. And groceries are about 9% lower.
Absolutely. And that's always a cost that is persistent for people and top of mind.
Absolutely.
In this economy, people are always thinking about how to stretch those grocery dollars. So you know that here you can get a little more bang for your buck.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Something that we love about the city, and we think you will too, is the music scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have so many great bands here. You can see local music, or we also attract national acts as well. And we have so many venues to see music play.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Wonderful venues. What do you want to see? Large national touring acts at the KFC Yum Center, which has seats over 22,000. You think Post Malone, Taylor Swift, amongst many others, great national stand-up comedians.
All right, another great venue here in the city is the Louisville Palace. This is on 4th Street in a more historic area. And it is an older theater, brings a lot of acts to town. What's so special about the Palace is really the decor and the design inside. You truly feel like you've been transported into another century.
Absolutely.
It has dramatic curtains. The seating is, velvet seating, and the detail on the walls and the ceiling, including twinkling lights. It's quite magical.
Very historic, very ornate, and they also will show classic movies there with the Louisville Orchestra scoring the movie in real time. You think old Steven Spielberg movies, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's more than a venue. It really is an experience to go to the Palace.
A couple more of our favorite venues that you should check out are Zanzibar and Mercury Ballroom. Mercury Ballroom is down on 4th Street, pretty close to the Palace.
Right.
Zanzibar is in Germantown, which is another one of our favorite historic neighborhoods we're going to go over later in this video.
I think one of the things that I love when I think about Louisville is that juxtaposition of the old and the new. So right on 4th Street, you have two phenomenal music venues, Mercury Ballroom and the Palace, and they're just steps away from each other.
Yeah, and very different experience. Both very good, just different. Another one of our favorite things about living in Louisville, Kentucky is that we have festivals galore.
Yes, we do.
One of the big kids on the block right now is called Bourbon and Beyond.
Oh my gosh,
and it goes for 4 days, and we get national acts from all over the world. Bourbon and Beyond is known as the world's largest bourbon and music festival. This annual event features top chefs, bourbon tastings, and world-class music. Another favorite festival is World Fest, which happens every Labor Day down on the Belvedere in downtown Louisville. There you're going to find music, food, all kinds of arts and crafts from 30 different cultures, because Louisville's very culturally diverse.
Every October, the first weekend of October, is one of the largest art shows in the world, St. James Art Show. This takes place in historic St. James Court down in Old Louisville, adjacent to Central Park. And it's absolutely magnificent. There are hundreds of artists, and it's a delight to walk around St. James Court. Lining the street are different vendor booths with just some of the most unique and beautiful works of art.
Make sure you check out the fountain down there. It's a wonderful place to congregate and hang out, and the leaves are starting to turn. So you have all these Victorian mansions and all this gorgeous art, and it's a real experience.
And last is Abbey Road on the River. This is a musical tribute to the Beatles. It takes place over in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and it is an entire event
just dedicated to the Beatles. It's wonderful, and it's a whole vibe.
It really is.
Needs to be experienced. Both sides of the riverfront really just offer tremendous experience. They've really, with the addition of the Big Four Bridge, Jeffersonville has really invested a lot of money in that infrastructure
Yes.
for all kinds of arts and entertainment. So if you love the Beatles, make sure you check out Abbey Road on the River. Another one of our favorite things about Louisville that a lot of people mention when they visit is just all the wonderful historic neighborhoods that we have. Isn't that right?
Absolutely, yes.
As the name suggests, a lot of these neighborhoods got their foothold in Louisville in the mid to late 1800s. The first one we're going to talk about is probably the one most people are most familiar with, which is the Highlands. The Highlands is actually comprised of several other smaller historic neighborhoods that we'll go into in another video, so make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so we can keep you up to date on that. But the Highlands has a very historic vibe. A lot of Victorian homes, some bungalows, some Italianate, some Tudor homes. It's got a very energetic and culture feel. The main corridor in the Highlands is Bardstown Road.
Right.
And there you're going to find lots of restaurants, coffee shops, boutiques. It's a wonderful place to go out for a night, whether you're just getting a bite to eat at one of our wonderful restaurants, get a great cup of coffee, pick up a gift for a friend.
Right.
It's just got a very warm and inviting feel. Highly recommend checking out the Highlands.
Yeah, and of course the Highlands also is where you would find Cherokee Park, which we've also mentioned as one of the amenities here in Louisville. And there's also a smaller park called Tyler Park in the Highlands.
Tyler Park.
Yep, it is a really beautiful smaller park here in the city that offers pickleball and tennis and basketball, and also has a wonderful space for outdoor music. Another historic gem here in Louisville are the neighborhoods of Germantown, Schnitzelburg, and Paristown. The home styles in these neighborhoods are really marked by what we would call a shotgun or a camelback style. And homes are a little bit closer together. And there is just been such a wonderful revitalization in these neighborhoods in the last 10 years. I actually owned one of my first homes in Germantown more than 20 years ago. And the difference between then and now is absolutely staggering.
Absolutely. It's changed so much.
Yeah.
The main corridor that's just been highly developed the past several years is Goss Avenue.
Yep. There's so many more restaurants, bars, and shops all along Goss Avenue.
One of the favorites on Goss Avenue is Hawks. And
Yeah.
it is its own little compound.
It really is.
They've really connected a few different restaurants and shops, so it's really an immersive experience. You go to this backyard, and they've made this wonderful little area there's fire pits, cornhole, all kinds of playground equipment for kids, and it's just such a unique feel.
Well, and on that note, it's interesting because Germantown has always been a neighborhood really that's been favored by young people, young professionals, because the entry into Germantown, it's an affordable neighborhood to get into. But then those young people got married and they had kids. And so, they don't really want to leave Germantown. And I love the fact that the businesses there recognized that and they added space for families to come with their kids and enjoy it.
It's been another one of those things, almost like the Big Four Bridge, where I knew its impact would be great, but it's actually just greater than I ever would have expected.
I know. Another vibrant area of the city is New Lou. This district along East Market Street has a number of restaurants and shops and boutiques. It has an explosive growth in the last 10 years.
Absolutely. It's unrecognizable from what
it really is.
So far, you find lots of art galleries down there.
Yes.
Architecture ranges everything from renovated industrial spaces, some really contemporary condominium builds.
Yes.
And it's just a lot of foot traffic between the bars. There's several different street fairs down there throughout.
They really do.
So New Lou has just completely transformed that whole region of the city.
And it does attract a lot of tourists, and as a result, they're adding more hotels there as well, like really, really cool boutique hotels. So while residential areas in New Lou are still a little bit limited and maybe restricted to some new builds, just adjacent to it is Butchertown.
Love Butchertown.
Yeah, the primary corridor in Butchertown is Washington Street. This is an absolutely beautiful, idyllic, tree-lined street.
Looks like Sesame Street if you're looking.
It really does. And it's made up of shotgun-style homes and
some federal.
Yes. It's an absolute gem. It's also adjacent, really close to and in between Waterfront Park, Lynn Family Stadium, and then New Lou.
Yep. Love Lynn Family Stadium. Another one of our favorite historic neighborhoods is Clifton and Crescent Hill. That's actually where we are right now. So we're right on Frankfort Avenue. So make sure you say hello to us if you visit Louisville.
That's right.
Clifton and Crescent Hill are both very family friendly and have some wonderful dining and shopping options as well. The main corridor is Frankfurt Avenue, and highly recommend you visit the local businesses, restaurants, shops, and boutiques all along Frankfurt Avenue. It's just got gobs to see and do.
Yep, very walkable.
Very walkable. Along Frankfurt Avenue in Clifton Crescent Hill, you'll find an array of just wonderful restaurants. One of my favorites is the Grape Leaf. Probably more than any other restaurant that I've eaten at in my life. It is fantastic. Wonderful coffee shops, several coffee shops. We could walk to probably 4 coffee shops from the office.
Easily.
Easily.
Yeah. They're all unique and different and offer something a little bit different than the other.
Yeah, it is just wonderful.
I would say that Crescent Hill and Clifton are truly eclectic.
Absolutely agree. Last but not least on our list of some of our favorite historic neighborhoods is Old Louisville.
Yeah.
Old Louisville actually features the largest Victorian neighborhood in the country. So you can just see miles upon miles of these beautiful Victorian mansions. Each one is different than the previous.
Yeah.
And just beautiful tree-lined streets. Big trees from the 1800s. And it's also the home of one of our favorite festivals we talked about earlier, St. James Art Festival.
That's right.
Down there you also find Central Park, which is another Olmsted park. They've got tennis courts. It's also where they have the Shakespeare in the park. And Old Louisville is just an absolute gem.
The homes there were built during the Southern Exposition, which spanned about 5 years.
1880 to 1885.
Right. And the architecture is something unlike anything I've ever seen. We recently looked at a house down there with some clients, and it was absolutely stunning. The homes in Louisville are unique to that area. There's really nothing like it anywhere else in the city. Old Louisville also has some haunted walking tours in the fall, like during Halloween.
Absolutely.
And that's a really fun thing and a great way to go see some of this architecture that's down there.
Another great thing about some of these historic neighborhoods is just a tremendous sense of community. A lot of these neighborhoods not only have their own Facebook groups, but they'll have their own street closures just for neighbors. And you really feel like you get to know your neighbors and that they're warm and kind.
Absolutely. They have festivals and events that are just specific to those neighborhoods.
All right, you all, just like any city, anywhere, or any place you're going to choose to live, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So we're going to go over some cons here too. So before we get to that though, if you're liking our content, consider moving to Louisville. We're going to post our contact information there. Feel free to call, email, text, or our favorite, set up a Zoom call, and we'd love to talk to you. Just see if we're a fit for each other.
All right. Well, with the good comes the bad.
That's right.
And that brings us to the first con, which would be traffic. So traffic in Louisville can be challenging. We have several major arteries. We have I-71, which primarily runs from Louisville northeast up to Cincinnati. We have I-64, which is the east-west highway. I-65, which runs north-south. And then we have 2 concentric rings. We have the Waterston Expressway, 264, and then outside of that is the Gene Snyder 265. When we have any kind of crash or incident on any one of those highways, it definitely causes pressure on other highways and surface roads here in Louisville.
Yeah, whenever there's that kind of obstacle in the way, people will start to use other routes and those get backed up too.
Yep, absolutely. Now, our average commute time is about 20.8 minutes here in Louisville, which is actually higher than the national average. I will say from personal experience, living in the east end of Louisville and trying to commute downtown for many, many years, I would find that to be true, to be at about a 20-minute commute time if there were no issues with traffic. But a very typical commute during rush hour, whether that be morning or afternoon rush hour, could be closer to 35 minutes. And then if there was an incident on any of the highways, it could be 45 minutes to over an hour.
Yeah, this is all relative. If you're moving here from a bigger city, we have lots of people who move here from California and New York, and they think our traffic is pretty negligible. But if you're moving here from a smaller community, you just want to factor that in.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, another one of the cons in Louisville is public transport. It's not that great. We do have the TARC bus system, which stands for Transit Authority of River City. But a University of Michigan study found that only about 2.7% of Louisville residents actually even use TARC buses. Although the ones that do, almost 90% gave really flying reviews and really approved the service that they were getting. But if you are moving here again from New York or Chicago or something, and you're used to having surface trains, subway, the L, we don't have anything that's comparable to that here. So
yeah, Louisvillians are very car dependent.
Yeah, it's in the top third of most car dependent cities for that reason.
Yes. And yeah, the TARC unfortunately doesn't have a very far reach in terms of, how many routes they offer. and where they service in the city.
It's mostly in the city center, primarily inside I-264, the
Yep.
Waterson Expressway.
Right.
There are some routes that go out, but they get fewer and more far between as you get outside I-264.
That's right. Yeah.
Another con to Louisville is its airport.
Yes.
Not that great. It's actually a beautiful airport. It's nice and clean. We just don't have a whole lot of direct flights.
Right.
It's called an international airport, but there's
Really no flights that are direct anywhere international.
Very few. Maybe Canada and Mexico. So, most of your flights are probably going to be routed through another major airport. But if direct flights is really important to you, we are adding more direct flights every year. And if you have to, something that we've done from time to time, is we go right down the road to CDG, which is right across from Cincinnati.
Yes.
And it's got a huge hub there, and it's just a little over an hour, and you can get just exponentially more direct flights there. So that's not a bad option.
Right. Now, one plus about our airport is that it's easy to navigate. There's really just two primary concourses, A and B, with no more than 15 to 20 gates in each concourse. So it is easy to get around, and you never have to get to the airport 3 to 4 hours before your flight. It's not that busy here.
Yeah, it's not a big intimidating airport like Chicago O'Hare or Dallas or one of the LAX or LaGuardia or something where you just feel overwhelmed.
No map required to navigate the airport.
Yeah, it's really simple, and that's another thing that I love. But direct flights is really important to you. It will leave something to be desired.
Yeah, you may find your options limited. Another perceived drawback here in Louisville is that our sports scene is primarily college and not professional. Yep. We have a great fan base for our local universities, University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, and IU. But we don't really have the professional sports scene that many people want to see. If you want to see professional sports, you're just going to have to go somewhere else. So how far would you have to drive to see some professional sports in the area? If you would want to drive an hour and a half, you can go to Cincinnati to see the Bengals or the Reds play. You could drive to Indianapolis, 2 hours for the Pacers or the Colts. You could go to Nashville, 3 hours, right?
Yep.
See the Predators or the Titans there. Or you could go 4 hours west to St. Louis to catch like a Cardinals baseball game.
Yeah, so it's not that bad. If you want to see professional sports, you don't have to travel that far. But as of the time of this video, we don't offer that here. We do have wonderful men's and women's soccer, though, too, at Lynn Family Stadium, which was just built in the past 10 years. And it is state of the art. But it's not too big. It's really modern, but small.
And fun.
Yeah, they just have gobs of events there. And it's become just a wonderful place that the community has really rallied around.
And then, of course, another option here is our AAA ball team, the Louisville Bats. They're the farm team for the Cincinnati Reds. This is a really fun ballpark. It's accessible and affordable with so many different fun features for the whole family.
And lots of nights they have fireworks after the games. And the park just has a really warm, inviting, all-American, classic ballpark feeling. So it feels historic. It feels like a classic baseball park.
It really does. And they do some fun events. They do one where they actually do a nut-free night. So there's no peanuts. They are respectful of the fact that there's a lot of people with peanut allergies, and they'll have a dedicated night where the stadium is completely nut-free. And then they also will occasionally do a night where you can bring your dog to the ballpark.
Oh, yeah, that's tons of fun. Now, another thing that we have to deal with from time to time is the occasional flooding. We are a river city. So in times of heavy rain, the river does get backed up, and it particularly affects routes close to the river, like River Road. And that's a major surface artery that a lot of people use, and then people get rerouted onto 71, and that can really affect commute times, and it all just kind of compounds through the other major arteries here in Louisville.
Yeah, we definitely have a history of flooding in Louisville with the Great Flood of 1937, where the waters rose to 50 feet. And of course, then they mitigated that by putting in flood walls. They built those in the 40s and the 50s, and then revamped them again and improved them in the 60s and the 80s. So flooding is nothing like it used to be here in Louisville, but we do have the occasional high waters that will crest the banks, flood out some of the roads near the river, and just kind of cause a headache for everybody.
It's not a huge deal, but that is mostly during the rainy season in April, May. And with that, we see the occasional water intrusion. We went over that Louisville has a lot of shotgun style homes and Victorian homes, and these homes are pretty close together. So the water's got to go somewhere. It's going to find the path of least resistance. So
Right.
it occasionally gets to the basement. So we do see some water intrusion in basements here, but we've got great relationships.
Yeah.
There's an abundance of basement waterproofing companies.
That's
here.
right. Like we talked about, the city always adapting to what people want and need.
Mhm.
And as a result, we have lots of options for basement waterproofing here.
Yeah, so the flooding doesn't even happen every year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty minimal. I wouldn't put it too high on your list if you're really weighing the pros and cons of moving to Louisville.
Mhm.
It's just something to consider. But all that rain, though, is also what makes the River City so green. So it's not a total loss. Louisville doesn't flood every year, though. So it's not a really big deal if you're really considering moving here. It's just something to consider if you're looking to move close to the river.
Mhm.
I would definitely recommend not buying in the floodplain. You know, you probably want to stay out of the floodplain. It also has, you'll get increased homeowners insurance. You have to have FEMA
Right.
coverage, and it just makes the house less sellable.
Thank you for watching Living in Louisville with Zach Fry and Beth Geiser. If you're considering buying or selling in Louisville, Kentucky, we would love to help.
All of our contact information is below, so feel free to email, call, text, or our favorite, schedule a Google Meet.
We look forward to working with you.
Until then, have a great day.